Hey everybody, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast where we take the conversation from one Sunday to the next Sunday. We meet you in the middle. We release these things on Wednesday. That's our hope, that you would get them every Wednesday and it would kind of connect your week, Sunday to Sunday. That's why we call it Beyond Sunday. But anyway, my name is Josh Hensley. I am one of the hosts today, and we're diving into a powerful recap of the message that we heard on Sunday, Filled to be Spilled. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to everybody around the table here. We have across from me, David Rambo.
Hey guys, how's it going?
David Ray Rambo. I can't, the other week, Michael, you said just kind of say it all together. I can't do that.
David Ray Rambo.
David Ray.
Just like his mom. Just like his mom says it.
It was a beautiful moment when your mom shouted you out. David Ray Rambo loves Jesus.
That I do.
We all know that.
And I'm glad.
You show it, you do it well, and we're so proud of the way that you love Jesus.
Man, he's just hyping me up. That's awesome.
All right, moving on. We have Evan Ryan right beside him.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to be here.
We're doing great, Evan.
Yeah.
And then we have Michael Shearon again. It's like we're normals, Michael.
Again.
But you know we love it.
I do love it. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun because we get to talk about not only the sermon, but we get to know each other better. I think every single time we meet and we talk about something personal comes up.
Yeah.
That I didn't know about the other person. So I love that. Kind of draws us together. And maybe you're getting that because you're listening. We've heard that from some people that I get to know the pastors a little bit more.
Yeah, I like that.
I love, if there's nothing else that comes out of that, getting to know us better only creates our relationship better. And I love it because that's what pastors are all about, creating relationships. So before we get started today, we talked about the story of Jesus turning water into wine.
At a wedding.
At a wedding, when there was not much wine there, and they had ran out. But before we get that, Evan, you asked a question, and you told me about it earlier, that you asked the youth on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good question to ponder.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So the question that I asked the students Sunday as we were talking about this story where Jesus turns water into wine is, if you could turn water into anything, what would it be? So if you had a power just to touch this bottle of water in front of me and turn it into any other liquid besides water, what would you guys choose?
I said queso.
That counts, man. Liquid
Is there
cheese.
a type of queso like you talking about? Like
I'm talking about the queso from Senor Lopez.
Senor Lopez queso.
Senor Lopez queso on tap. Just give me water.
What would you do with it?
That's a dumb question. I'm eating it, right?
Michael, he is the sauciest of all saucers.
It's great.
Michael Saucy Shearon.
I may have told people this, but that's what he is in my phone. That's his contact, Michael Saucy Shearon.
Yep, that'd be me. I'd be going with queso.
And it's funny because Siri actually calls you that, calling Michael Saucy.
Siri knows.
He knows. I got to thinking about it. I was going to say something like generic, like coffee, but there is a drink that I enjoy all the time, and it is Dr. Pepper Zero cream soda.
Cream soda.
I just, I might even, like, if it came out of my finger, like, just constantly, I would probably use it as a straw. Okay.
Yeah. What about the strawberry cream soda? You don't like that one as much?
I don't get on board with that.
Yeah. But just the normal Dr. Pepper cream soda.
Dr.
Zero
Pepper
sugar.
cream soda Zero.
Gotcha.
They did come out with a blackberry, but it's still not as good.
We did have a student say Dr. Pepper, but not the cream soda version.
Was it my son?
No. I can't remember what he said.
He said last night, we told him they could have some ice cream after dinner. And he really had like a pressing question. Dad, I need to ask you something. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know what it could be. He said, instead of ice cream, can I just have Dr. Pepper?
He is committed.
And I was like, no.
Oh,
Because part of Dr. Pepper is the caffeine. We don't need
Oh,
caffeine
yeah,
at
yeah,
9
yeah.
o'clock at
That's
night.
true. That's true. That's a good dad moment. I didn't even think about that.
I have to think for him.
Yeah.
So David, what about you? What would you turn water into? Any other liquid if you had the power to?
I think my biggest expense right now is White Monster energy drinks.
Dude, that's a good answer, bro. And if you're in the audience and you've never had a White Monster,
Just don't.
There's nothing else in the world like it. Am I right, David?
Pause this podcast right now, go to your local Hucks and pick up a White Monster energy drink. And that is my biggest expense right now. Just every single morning, cracking one open. Mm-hmm. And if I just had the ability to get my little Awala water bottle and just turn it straight into Monster energy drink, I think that would really help me financially.
Do you actually pour the Monster in your Awala?
No, but I would pour the water in my Awala, and then you'd have to turn the water into it.
I have a friend that I saw her do this. She had one of those like water bottles that what is it? The
Awala?
Yeti?
Stanley,
something like that. Yeah. Big. She emptied out 3 Red Bulls into that thing and carried it around all day. It was like, you're tricking people.
Yeah.
They think there's water in there, but you're actually drinking Red Bull.
Your heart is palpitating.
Yeah, that's awful.
Well, I'm another person that does love energy drinks. So the White Monster I can get on board with. If I didn't have to buy an energy drink every morning, that'd be awesome. I could also do, one of the many Alani flavors. But I didn't actually, I was thinking about this answer, and I wouldn't actually go with anything that you drink. And if you notice in the question, I said liquid. I didn't say had to be a liquid that you have to drink, a beverage, right? So I asked the students this, and they all gave me beverages, Dr. Pepper. One kid said V8 Energy. One kid said milk. One kid said lemonade, But I would go, and I think this is the ultimate right answer to this question. It can't be topped. I would go with gasoline. Free gas for the rest of your life. If you could turn water into gas, I mean, that's awesome.
Would you just get a bunch of gallons and fill up?
I would get. Well, I didn't think about that, David.
Well, because when you think about how much is gas per gallon, right now.
I mean, but you could get water from the rain.
Yeah.
So we're turning water into it.
Yeah, I would have to get a big a giant tank,
like a
somewhere.
cistern.
Yeah. And I basically have to put in, my own gas pump at my house, but fill it with water, and then.
Or we could just get the gas nozzle, like when we were talking the other day about the widow that had the little teeny tiny flask of oil, but it kept on pouring out into the big jugs. All you need is the gas nozzle.
Just hook it up to the sink.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I got news for you. Jesus was able to turn water into anything that he wanted, and at the wedding Sunday, we talked about how he turned it into
wine.
Turned it into wine. So, just a quick recap. Just a quick recap of where we were on Sunday. We talked about this idea that we are filled to be spilled, and Pastor Kevin talked about these 3 things. An outpouring often creates uncomfortable tension. An outpouring experience requires amazing faith, and a Jesus outpouring results from purposeful filling.
Yeah, I was thinking about the tension thing. Mm-hmm. What was the problem at the wedding?
We're out of wine.
We're out of wine. And who was told that they were out of wine?
Well, Mary did the telling. So Mary knew that they're out of wine, and she tells Jesus,
right?
Hey, Jesus, we're out of wine. It's a big deal.
So it's kind of this tension between what? It's between scarcity in this story and faith. She knew that they were out of something, and she had faith enough to know who to go to.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking, where in my life do I feel the tension between scarcity and faith? Because the tension often creates something in us, whether it's unbelief, whether it's anxiety, whether it's whatever that would plague us from day to day. It creates something in it that scarcity does. But once I realize that God is my provider, then I transition from the tension to resolution.
Yeah.
And music, if you've ever heard like a song that just kind of gets you going and like you're waiting on the edge of your seat, it's because music has the ability to create tension. And then when it hits maybe that last chord, you get this resolution that happens.
Yeah.
If you're a musician, you know what that is. There's, suspensions and chords. There's sevenths, like scale degrees in a chord, but then it resolves to something that feels more familiar.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have anything in your life where you feel like there is a scarcity, but you do have faith?
I mean, obviously right now through this season, I mean, I think we all feel the scarcity with finances and that, but I think also you could feel scarcity. I don't experience this a ton, but I have in the past. Like you could feel a sense of scarcity when it comes to your time. Like, man, I'm just
I was literally
swamped.
just thinking that. Yeah.
Like I'm swamped. I don't have enough time to give to this relationship. I don't have enough time to do things that I want to do on the side. I don't have enough time to build and grow in my relationship with the Lord. Like after everything just adds up, I think, we can feel that scarcity of time. But also, like you said, God's the provider of our finances. He's the provider of our time in the same way, we got to have faith in that aspect too. So y'all feel that at all?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that with time. I wrote this down in my notes. So every day I have this like file that I open up on my phone, and it's like my church to-do list. And at the top of the thing, well, I'll just read it to you that I pull up because I want to look at this every single day and read it. When I think about time, I think about energy. Like there's no such thing as time that doesn't expend energy. So here's the question that I look at every day. Am I giving my wife and kids the same energy and time that I would give a member of our church? Mm-hmm. When I talk to them, when I speak to them, when I have interactions with them, am I giving them the same time and energy? So, man, you said time, and I'm right there with you. And the reality is we all have the same amount of time throughout the day. We get 24. That's what we get.
Yep.
I think I'm kind of on the opposite end of that. When I'm passionate about something, when I want to do something, I want to do it right then and there. I want to feel that time, right? Mm-hmm. But, if God gives me something and he's like, I want you to do this, I want you to be faithful in this way, I want to immediately do it. But if it's not God's timing for me to do it, then I can be in disobedience by acting on it too soon. So I feel the tension in that lull period of waiting, trying to hear. I get uncomfortable. I'm like, when is this going to happen, God?
Right.
Where's the sign? When's the moment that I can finally get up and go? And that's normally when I feel the tension is in that lull period of waiting.
The unanswered time.
The unanswered time.
It reminds me of a story, and rewind with me all the way to, I probably was 23 at the time. Heather was 22. We were pretty serious in our relationship. We'd already had discussions about marriage. We'd already talked about what life would look like once we get married. So we kind of already knew that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. I hadn't asked a question. I hadn't bought a ring. It was just those pre-conversations to that moment. Well, she was graduating in December of that year, and it was probably about October that this happened. But she was graduating in December, and I was graduating in the following May. But because she was graduating in December, she had already been applying for jobs and different things like that. And from her internships that she had through college, she was offered a job in Clarksville, Indiana. Now, that's right across the river from Louisville. It was at a hospital. She was going to be the public relations person for the hospital. This is a big job.
Yeah.
Normally, people coming right out of college would not get this job. It's marketing, it's public relations, it's communications, and that was her degree field. And so she was like, this is something that God had set up. Well, the problem was we were in Campbellsville. We were graduating from Campbellsville University. That's about 2.5 to 3 hours away from Clarksville, Indiana. Well, at the same time, I already felt called to the ministry and was serving at South Campbellsville Baptist Church for a good 5 years. The plan was hopefully that God would work something out, that after I graduated, I would just step right into a full-time position. So there was this tension between, I don't know what's going to happen, between us, with her job, with my job. Well, we had been praying about it together, and there was a morning that she knew she was getting a call from the hospital. And we had been praying, God, what do you want her to do? If we are to be together, how can we juggle this, her new job and my job at Campbellsville? And we just had this uneasy tension going on. Well, she had a meeting on the phone with Clarksville Hospital. And at the same time, I was having a meeting with our lead pastor at the church. And my meeting was completely different. The lead pastor said, we love you, and we could not imagine moving forward without you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start paying you full time in January, and we're going to offer you the parsonage.
Awesome.
I mean, this was like a blessing. And in the whole time, in the back of my mind, Heather still was unclear what she was going to do with her job in Clarksville. And she said in that moment, she felt God saying, you don't need to take that job. And she turned down, they offered her the job. This was a crazy turn down for her, but she said no.
Yeah.
I never knew that, Josh.
Yeah.
And it was super tension related until we realized that step of faith that she took, simultaneously, God was working on the other side going, I got you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we took that step of faith. What if she said yes? I would have probably still had the job in Campbellsville, and she would have been going to Clarksville, Indiana, and we probably would have lived in Elizabethtown, and we would have made it work.
Right.
But we invested ourselves, and she decided that it was more important to follow what God was calling in the sense of thinking towards us, and it's paid off. Yeah. It paid off amazingly. I stayed at South Campbellsville for another 5 years. That's where we had our kids. That's where we learned the foundations of ministry. And honestly, I couldn't imagine my life being without Heather. Yeah. She was the support that I needed through all of that. And we made a life for ourselves there in Campbellsville. And that just reminded me, just taking that bold step of faith allowed us to realize God's blessings on the other side.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think the Lord allows those tension points in our life to do something special with.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes I think he might even, this is going to sound weird, I don't mean for it to, but I think sometimes he might even allow things to come in that sets up a problem for us.
Yeah.
So he can come in and be the hero.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Of like, God, I don't know what to do, but I know I need you.
Right.
I feel this.
In the story,
that's exactly what happens, right?
Could God have prevented the wine from running out in the first place? Of course. But he allows Jesus to perform a miracle right here. And his power and his magnificence to be shown through that.
Yeah. I've heard before, and there's no scriptural background to this at all. It's just an interesting thought. But why does Mary go to Jesus? Well, of course, she knows that he can do something. But we're also given the detail in the scriptures that he and his disciples were invited to the wedding. Mm-hmm. And some people go as far to say, listen, the reason why Mary goes to Jesus and says, hey, we're out of wine is she's kind of saying, hey, your disciples, they need to slow down, man. Yeah. We are out of wine because they have
going dry.
They devoured it. Now, whether or not that happened, I don't know. I can't say one way or yes or the other. But it's certainly a funny thing to think about. But no, I think those tension points can actually lead to turning points.
Yep.
For us.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me was when Mary told the servants, just do whatever he tells you to do.
Do you think that was a flustered, like she's talking to Jesus in that moment, and woman, what does this have to do with me? And she just turns, she's like, whatever, just do whatever he tells you to do.
He's gonna do it. Just do what he tells you to do.
He's gonna do something. Just do it. Whatever he says.
And oftentimes, the understanding of our situations requires us to just go in with that mindset.
Yeah.
God promises so much that if we stay in his will, if if we really set our minds on the things that he desires, then he will come through. There's a promise there.
Yeah.
And she knew in that moment, just do whatever he tells you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about that verse, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be provided unto you. And it's pretty simple. Like, hey, you make sure that I'm primary, right? And your needs, your food, your shelter, clothing, I'll take care of all that.
Yeah. And the servants, they had to do it too. Like, can you imagine what's going through their head as he says, hey, fill all these with water? And they're like, what in the world is this going to do, Jesus?
Yeah,
Like,
180 gallons.
Right. Just fill these with water. But they do it. And like, how many times do we do things that we know the Lord's telling us to do, and we kind of have that same attitude? Like, what is this really going to do?
You think it could have been like a Mr. Miyagi moment? You guys know the Mr. Miyagi?
that?
Wax on, wax off. Why am I doing this? Why am I waxing your car every day, right? And he's like teaching him karate. Wax on, wacha, wax off.
They're making a new Karate Kid.
I'm not surprised. I think it did really well.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
But they're making a new movie.
Oh, they're making a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Called actually I don't know, but it's got Jackie Chan in it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I like Karate Kid movies.
I almost said, is it going to have Ray Romano in it? It's not the same guy.
No, it's not the same guy.
It's not Ray Romano. But Evan, you said something about they filled the whole thing up to the brim. And that just reminds me that was to the tippy top of what they thought was what God was capable of. Mm-hmm. And that's what God told them to do. Right. Fill it to the brim.
Yeah.
And what it turned into was this abundance of wine. Mm-hmm. And I think that mirrors exactly how God blesses us.
Yeah.
We have a saying, you've been blessed to be a blessing. Mm-hmm. God blesses us not so that we can keep it, not so that it can benefit us, but so that we can turn around and bless somebody else.
Yep.
Well, it's not just a saying for us, right? Like that is a biblical principle.
Right.
That he tells Abraham, hey, I'm going to bless you. And through the blessing that I'm going to give to you, your descendants, all of the earth, it will be blessed. And that's a great way to look at all the things that God has given us. He's not given us the things that he's given, whether it's time, talents, or abilities for us, but he's been given those to us so that we in turn could go and be a blessing.
Yeah.
I think that's important for us to live out. And during the outpouring, we can think about it as money. I think we can tangibly see it through the building. Yeah. We're going to be giving to this building, and God is going to build the building, and we're going to see the people, and we wait expectantly of what God's going to do with the building. But take a step back. What does it look like to have this overflow mindset, not only during the outpouring, but during our whole lives, during our week? How do we incorporate this? If God has filled us to the brim and given us all the things that we need, whether it be money, time, love, the blessings that we experience each and every day, what does it look like for us to pour those out?
Yeah.
And are we being good stewards of all of those things?
If we've been blessed and now we're supposed to be a blessing, right? We just talked so much about time. Like, in all reality, time is a blessing. Time is cut short for a lot of people. It's a blessing every single time, every single day we have, every single time we wake up, right? So spend your time blessing others, right? It's that simple. Spend your time that you've been blessed with to bless others. We can look at it financially, but there's a ton of ways that we can look at how we can be that blessing.
Yeah, and a good first step is noticing what you're good at, what you can give to others, whether that be I can build something, or I can bake, or I can just be there for them. I can just give them a hug when they're down.
Yeah.
And then going to God and saying, Lord, nudge me and make known in me the opportunities you wish, give me the opportunities that you want me to be a blessing to others.
Yeah. Everybody can be a blessing in a lot of different ways, right? Some people have been blessed beyond all measure financially, and they can be that huge financial blessing. some people, it's just based on their skills. I was really encouraged this week talking to one of our elders who kind of saw, we are in the planning phases of this new student building that we're building. And
It's going to be so awesome.
yeah,
I cannot wait.
I'm so excited for it. Me and Michael actually just toured another one nearby that's going to be similar to what we were going to build. But we're in the planning phases. We're planning out what we want in this building, what we're thinking about, and me and Michael are not.
We have the same side of the brain that operates with us.
Yeah. And it's not the side of the brain that Josh Hensley
That
has.
is correct.
Yeah. Right. It's not the creative side, the side that looks at something and says,
Amen.
"Man, this needs to be changed. This needs to be
This needs work.
prettied up,
Aesthetically, this
aesthetic.
needs work. Yeah.
So me and Michael, as we're looking at planning this building, what we're thinking of is the purpose and the
Function, structure.
what we need this building to do. We're not thinking of, man, how does this building look? But we had our elders this week kind of come alongside us and say, hey, we're going to help you with that. Like we're going to take that on. We're going to look at the aesthetics and we're going to make it look good. You guys just focus on what you're good at and you focus on the function of the building. And that was a blessing to us.
It's a big relief.
Yeah.
And it just shows how, even though each of us are different, we can use our differences and our unique selves to be unified as the body of Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
To come together to glorify God with all of the gifts that He has given us.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is going to be key if we want to be people that really live out what it means to be a blessing to others, it's realizing that whatever it is that you've been blessed with, a time, a talent, ability, whatever it is, if we can just realize one central thing, it will help us. Whatever it is, just remember this, it's not mine.
Right.
The time, it's not mine.
Yep.
The talent, it's not mine. The money, it's not mine. Yep. It is all borrowed, and one day I will give an account for everything that I have borrowed. My time, talent, and so just the realization and just healthily reminding ourselves of whatever it is, it's not mine.
It's not mine, and I'll add this, it's not to benefit me.
Yeah,
Right.
For,
It's not,
as a primary purpose.
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just to benefit or to glorify or to put me on a pedestal. It's
Yeah.
to do the opposite and glorify the Lord.
Yeah, it's not about us.
Yeah.
It's about Him.
That's a great statement. I like that.
Thank you.
Guys, it's been a great day to talk and to kind of look at the past Sunday, but let's look towards this Sunday.
Yeah.
This Sunday's a big one. We've been talking about it since the beginning of the outpouring, since we rolled it out in February.
I feel like we're rounding third
Oh, yeah.
right now. You know,
We're looking at home. Yeah.
we're looking
Right
at
there.
home. And this week isn't home, but we're rounding
Right.
it.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming around.
This is what we've been praying towards. This is what we've been having conversations towards. This is the moment that we get to make a commitment.
Yeah.
So Sunday, March 9th, is Commitment Sunday. I want you guys to come expecting to see what God has in store through our obedience. There's going to be a different kind of feel to the service, so make sure you don't show up late. You don't want to show up late this week because we are doing some different things during service that you want to be a part of. And the best way for us to have unity is for us all to hear the same things and experience the same things and basically have that family meeting. And I think that's one of the things we're going to get to experience this week on Commitment Sunday.
It's also the start of daylight savings time.
Oh, no.
On March 9th.
This is the bad one.
So mark it down, boys and girls. Plan on it.
Well, we talked about this in our communications meeting. It's kind of foreign to say, hey, set your clocks ahead an hour this week.
Yeah, they do it themselves.
It is.
Do it
It's
themselves,
weird.
right?
Yeah. But don't be surprised if you're a little bit groggy. So go to bed early.
I did just get a digital clock, so I will have to set that one because I'm so bad at waking up. But
Yeah, David, make sure that you set that.
Yeah, you should set 2.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
But guess what? There's always free coffee at church.
Yep.
So if you're like, I didn't wake up in time, just come on. We got the coffee. There's always donuts, so you can eat there too.
Yeah.
But that's this week, Commitment Sunday. Also looking ahead, March 16th, Evan, you're preaching,
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
and we're going to have the Lord's Supper that day.
That's right.
And that's an exciting thing. We get to do that. We kind of schedule it purposefully at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our opportunity in this first quarter of the year to do the Lord's Supper together. And sometimes we end up doing more than just once a quarter. But that's this week. Evan, you're going to be leading the Lord's Supper for the first time ever in your life. Woo!
Yeah, I guess you're right. That is the first time I've
No
led it.
pressure.
Yeah. No, I can't. No pressure.
No,
Should be
the first time I had to do it, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was wanting to make sure I said the right things. And then I got done. I was like, I could have just done it.
I always think it's just a little bit difficult to talk after eating that cracker.
Yeah, that is. I got to think about that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I get dry mouth up there anyways. So, and those crackers are dry. So,
And you got to do it every service. So
right,
four
four
times.
times.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a win for me though, man. Four crackers, 4 juice. I only usually get one. So,
That is a win.
You could just pretend to eat the cracker.
Yeah. Hey, not only is it Communion Sunday that day, but we're also going to be taking not just the Lord's Supper, but I think that's, is it Winter Sports Day that day?
it is our NWF Winter Sports Day.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So that's when we invite all students from the surrounding schools that have played a winter sport, and we're going to invite them to our 4th service on that Sunday. And then afterwards, we're going to just talk with them, hang out with them for a while, and then feed them and their families after. So it's just a way to recognize them. And if anybody is listening and you're on a winter sports team, you play basketball or
Or if you know anybody.
if you know anybody, like any of those winter sports, just tell them to come to our 4th service on Sunday, and it'll be a good time to celebrate y'all. So
Just to reiterate, that's not winter sports. So, right, like it's not.
So you don't have to be a winner.
Winter,
yes.
Sorry,
winter
sorry.
sports, yeah.
There's probably a lot of people in this town that aren't on the winter sports.
Yeah,
Easy.
it's for the loser sports too.
Okay. Hey, one thing that I was also thinking about with this podcast, I don't want it to be a one-way conversation.
Yeah.
I get people coming up to me all the time saying, hey, I loved this on the podcast, or they'll mention something, just kind of like a continued conversation that I've talked about in the podcast, and they mention something to me. We want some feedback. So we'd love to hear from you. What stood out to you today? You know, what stood out to you from the past? Have you ever experienced a moment that God stepped into to your need or into scarcity in an unexpected way? Let us know those things. And the best way to do that is in your weekly announcements on the church app. There is a button that says Ask Podcast Questions. And Tate and I, we get those notifications that when you submit something, that comes directly to us. And we know that you've asked those questions or made those comments. But I would love to have a little bit more dialogue with our listeners. So if you're listening, make sure that you converse with us.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to do it. But as always, thank you for listening. You know, you can always follow us. You can always share this podcast and make sure that you're connecting with us each and every week as we connect your Sunday to the next. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody. See you
Bye.
later.
See you.